Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. I just wanted to let everybody know that this is going to be recorded, and we will send out a recording of the webinar as well as the PowerPoint slides probably tomorrow or the day afterwards. So we're just going to go ahead and get started right away. My name is Becky Abbott. Welcome to advocacy training for the 2022 National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasia's Advocacy Day. Virtual Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill. Like I said, I'm Becky Abbott. I'm the co-chair of the NFED Family Driven Advocacy Committee. And my son Aiden is also affected by XLHED, which is a form of ectodermal dysplasias. We also have Lincoln Clapper, who will be speaking first from Advocacy Associates. And then Kevin, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I am Becky's co-chair on the NFED Advocacy Committee. Thanks to everybody for joining this evening, or if you're viewing the recorded one later on, thanks for viewing that as well. I have a 6-year-old son, Cannon, who also has XLHED.
So we want to welcome all of our ELSA advocates for joining us tonight. We have approximately 70 different organizations who are currently supporting the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and have signed on to support the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. So we're grateful that you're all here with us tonight and that you're advocating alongside us. Kayla, can you switch to the training agenda? So first of all, we're going to have an online schedule overview with Lincoln Clapper from Advocacy Associates. We're going to talk a little bit about what is the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, also known as ELSA. We're going to be talking about the current status of ELSA. We would like to talk about what to expect during your virtual day on the Hill, how to prepare for your meetings, some tips for successful meetings, how to stay connected and build relationships with your legislative offices. Kevin and I will put on a mock legislative meeting so you can kind of just view what will happen in the meetings on March 30th and get a feel for how relaxed those meetings are and what you should say. We're going to talk a little bit about social media and how you can advocate on social media and raise awareness for ELSA. We're going to quickly talk about our sponsors and thank them. And then at the end of it, we'll have a question and answer session. So with that, I'm going to switch it over to Lincoln and he can share his slides and talk a little bit about the schedules.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lincoln Clapper. I'm part of the Advocacy Associates team here in DC, and we're really excited to partner with you all again this year on your event. I'm going to spend a few minutes here to get things started and quickly run through an overview of how to access your schedules online ahead of next week, and just an overview of how to navigate your portal so you're familiar with the features ahead of your meetings. For those of you that did this event last year, most of this will look pretty familiar, but we have made a few changes to the system. And so, again, just wanted to sort of get everybody on the same page ahead of your meetings next week. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen here and we'll get started. Now, you all will be getting an email from us over the next couple days. We haven't decided on a specific date and time yet, still working out a few last minute details, but within the next 2 days, so I would say, by Wednesday or Thursday at latest of this week, you will get an email from us, and that will come from Advocacy Day at advocacyassociates.com, highlighted here in green. If you don't get that email from us by, say, close of business on Thursday at the latest, check your spam or junk folder. It's probably sitting there. If you do find it there, please unmark it as spam, as this is going to be our main way of communicating with you in terms of time changes, scheduling updates, cancellations, additions. All of that's going to come through over email, and so we want to make sure you're getting that correspondence. Now, in order to access your schedule, you're going to need the content that's going to be in the body of that email. So in the upper right corner will be a link for you to log in. It'll take a hyperlink, which will take you to the login page for your specific event. And within the middle part of your email, you'll see login credentials. Your username is going to be your Your username is going to be your email address, and there will also be a temporary password that will be provided for you as well. So when you click on that link to go to your dashboard page, you're going to need the credentials to log in. So when you click on that link, it'll take you to a login page that'll look like this. That's where you're going to want to enter your email address and that temporary password that was provided. Once you do that, click the sign in button, and then you'll be prompted to change your password to your own password. So rather than using that temporary password, it will force you to create your new password. Once you've met all the requirements there, click the send button and you'll be launched into your schedule at that point. This will be the only time that you'll need to do that from that device. So if you're logging in on your laptop or computer or tablet or whatever you plan on taking these meetings from, even if your phone, you can even do this from your phone if you need to. Once you do that from that device, you will not be asked to log in again from that particular device. So it'll keep you logged in very much like an app. Now, if at some point you become logged out or you're trying to access from a different computer or a different device and you forgot your password, you can click the forgot password link that you'll see on the homepage. It'll be a very simple reset process, very similar to any other password reset system that you've done before online. Now, if you have any issues at all with any of that, there's a contact link in the initial email that you'll see from us. And you can go to that on the bottom, fill out that form submission. It'll go directly to our development team, and they will reach out to you on an individual basis to get any login issues resolved. Now, once you're logged into your schedule, you're going to see a home dashboard that'll look similar to this. All of the confirmed meetings on your page are displayed with a time. Anything that's still pending, that means we still may be working on the time with the office. We may be having to reschedule for some reason. That will show up as TBD. As these meetings become confirmed on your schedule, you will get a notification email about that from our system. So you'll be very much in the loop every step of the way moving forward as those meetings do become slotted in. Now, a new feature we have this year is our time zones. So all times on your schedule are going to display in the local time zone you're located in. So it'll automatically adjust based on your location. You will not need to do any time conversions. It will automatically adjust based on where you are located when you're looking at your schedule. Now, in order to get the information for each meeting, just click on any part of the dashboard there. When you click on it, it'll launch you into that specific meeting dashboard. It'll look something like this. It'll have the date and time again at the top. It'll have who you're meeting with below that. So whether you're meeting with staff, member of Congress, or both. If there's been a meeting lead assigned to your meeting, which I know that we're going through right now. So you'll see that information here. You'll see that person or person's name. And I know Becky and her team will be getting into more information later about the meeting lead roles. Now, in order to access the video component, you're going to want to click on that green Join Online Meeting button. That'll open up more than likely the Zoom platform. I would say 99% of the time you can expect to be using the Zoom platform. There's a few offices that may use WebEx or Teams, etc. Same concept applies. Just click that button. It'll open up whatever dashboard you need. In addition to that, there's a few offices for well, they say it's for their own security preferences, but they just do not do video at all. So in those instances, you'll see a disclaimer on the button letting you know that it's an audio only meeting. If you are not able to access via video, you can of course dial in too. There will be dial-in information in this area here, so just follow the directions if you need to dial into the meeting. All of your talking points will be displayed in the module here. All of your documents will be displayed in the documents module here. If you click on each document, it'll open up in a separate tab on your browser. So you won't need to download anything. It'll just open right on up. You'll be able to toggle back and forth between your schedule, your documents, and your Zoom platform all at the same time. Beneath that will be the attendee section, which will show who's going to be in that meeting with you. There may be some relevant contact information displayed there, such as name, email, and phone number. You're also able to turn that information on or off. So if you click on your name in the upper right corner, click the privacy tab, you can turn that information on or off as well. You can also contact each other through our peer-to-peer chat function. So this is a way for you to send direct private messages between yourself and other advocates. by clicking on that blue chat bubble. If somebody sends you a message through this mechanism, you will get a notification about that from the platform. On the left-hand side is our report form area. The first one is the check-in feature. Basically, it's an attendance report. So please click that button either before or after your meeting, letting us know that you checked in, because we'll be sending this report to Becky and her team after the event. And we want to be able to highlight that you were present for these meetings. Beneath that will be an option for you to send a thank you email to the office once the meeting concludes. It'll pull up a script that's already been crafted for you. You can, of course, personalize it and customize it as needed, but a lot of that work will already be done. You can open it in one of two ways. Click that blue open email button at the top. It'll pull up whatever your native platform is on your device. So for me, I have Microsoft Outlook. If I were to click that button, it would pull up in a Microsoft Outlook email for me to send. If you're using Gmail or Yahoo or something web-based, you can copy all this information with those 3 copy clipboard buttons beneath it, and then paste it into the email client of your choice. And it will automatically pull the staffer's email for who you met with as well. So you'll have that contact information available. Beneath that will be the meeting report form. Will be a specific list of questions for you to answer after each meeting. So please take some time and go through and answer those. Once you get to the bottom, click submit, and you'll do this again for each meeting on your schedule. Beneath that will be a take notes feature. This is basically a blank notepad. If you want to take freehand style notes rather than using pen or paper, it's just a nice way to sort of keep everything in one place. You may also see some background material in there, so some past notes from last year's event, if any attendees had anything to input from the meeting with that office last year. So it could also serve as some good background material. So take a look at that as well. Beneath that is an option to select if the member of Congress attended or did not attend. This is just a critical data point we try to gather, and we can only get that from you because you are the people that are actually in the meeting. For those of you that have done this before, the meeting may be scheduled with the member of Congress, but they get pulled away to votes, or they're stuck at a committee hearing or something like that, and they can't make it. So again, just a useful data point, and especially important from a debrief perspective. So please mark one of those options as well. And then lastly, for you social media fans, you'll be able to access your Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn if you prefer, if you'd like to drop a post on any of those platforms. The meetings tab will take you back to the homepage where you can then navigate your way to that next meeting on your schedule. The legislators tab will take you to an area where you can view bios for everybody you're meeting with. It'll also have links to all of their social media pages as well if you want to play around with that. The bills tab will highlight any relevant bills you're tracking for your event. If you go to the bottom, it will show the vote history of how that member has voted on it, if it has been voted on. If you're not tracking any bills, then this area is going to be blank. The news tab will pull any relevant news articles they've been mentioned in recently, so you can read about those online. And the committees tab will show all the committees that member of Congress serves on. The messages tab will show that will be an area where you can view those direct peer-to-peer messages between yourself and other advocates. The directory is a master directory of everyone in the event, so you can contact people outside of your meetings if you need to. And the support tab will be your best friend for anything and everything support. So whether it's technical support, scheduling support, you can't make a meeting anymore, which we absolutely need to know about, all of that needs to go through support. This really will be the fastest, most efficient way to get any question resolved. The More tab will pull down a menu basically of all the content I've already reviewed, just a way to access it from the home page. There may also be some additional resources there to check out if your organization has provided it. So go ahead and mess around with that as well when you get logged into your schedule and familiarize yourself with that. Okay, last slide here. So again, check your spam or junk folder if you haven't gotten that initial email from us by, say, close of business, this Thursday. Our domain is @Advocacy Associates if you want to search for that, or also use that in your settings to unmark us as spam. We're asking everybody to call or get into the video portion of their meeting 10 minutes prior to the start time on your schedule. This will really just to make sure you're able to touch base with the other attendees in your group about roles, and also just to make sure everyone's present. That way the meeting can start right on time. All times on your schedule are going to be shown in the time zone you're located in when viewing it. So again, you will not need to do any time conversions. You're going to get a reminder email 1 hour prior to each meeting throughout the course of the day. This will help keep you on track. It will also include a link to your schedule in it. So it'll make it really easy to get in and out of your schedule throughout the course of the day. If the office does not join your meeting within 10 minutes past the start time, please contact us. There will be a help number in the support tab for you to call if there is a time sensitive issue like that. Sometimes members and staff, run late just like the rest of us, but do give them a 10-minute buffer to join before letting us know. These meetings may go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, so just prepare your talking points accordingly. I know Becky and her team will be going over that here later. Any changes to your schedule the day of the event is going to come through over email. So again, just make sure you're monitoring that really regularly throughout the course of the day. Make sure you are in an area with good Wi-Fi connection, as again, most, if not all of your meetings will have a video component to them. Please mute your microphone whenever you're not speaking. And lastly, just know your audience, ensure you have an appropriate background. What I mean by that is nothing super politically charged, as you'll be speaking with both Republicans and Democrats throughout the course of the day. So that being said, very much looking forward to next week. And I know I will be hanging on here for a few minutes to answer any questions. So if anybody would like to put those in the Q&A, otherwise, Becky, I'll turn it over to you and you can take it from here.
Thanks so much, Lincoln. We have one question so far. So if anybody else has any questions about their schedules, please enter it in the Q&A while Lincoln is here and he'll be able to answer those. The first question is, how do we add ELSA to the bills we are tracking? Will that automatically populate in the schedule as we've shared that with Advocacy Associates as the only bill that we're tracking, or will each individual advocate have to enter that?
No. So if you've provided, which I believe you probably have, Becky, if you provided that bill to us, then everybody will see that bill pre-populated in there for every legislator on your schedule.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lincoln. Are there any other questions at all about the schedules or accessing your schedules or the information in the schedule, such as the talking points or how to access the Zoom links? Okay, if there isn't any other questions, we will move on to Kevin and he can talk to you about what is the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act.
Great, thanks, Becky, and thanks, Lincoln, for going over those schedules on the online platform. So what I'd like to do first is just kind of give a very brief overview reminder of what is the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. So this is a federal bill. So let's start at that level, right? So there's different levels of government. This is at the US federal level. It will apply across the board to all 50 US states. So the objective of ELSA is to ensure that the private, group, and individual health plans don't delay or deny medically necessary treatments of congenital anomalies. So the focus there is on the private, group, and individual health plans. What we commonly refer to as like private health insurance, right? So this is employer-sponsored plans, items that you might buy on the federal marketplace, individual health plans, but it's not going to be federal employee health benefits or Medicare, Medicaid. The foundation is 50 state laws that already exist right now that require insurance and providers that are regulated at the state level to provide coverages for medically necessary repair of congenital anomalies. So that's what ELSA was built upon. And as background, about 4% of children in the US are born with congenital anomalies. While Becky and I are both from the NFED, focused on ectodermal dysplasias, what we've learned is that there is a large number of other congenital anomalies that face the same type of insurance denials and delays that our families do. Oral defects, skeletal defects, vision defects, hearing defects, anything that results in the loss of bodily function from a congenital anomaly. So bottom line, any medically diagnosed congenital anomaly that requires medically necessary treatment would benefit from the passage of ELSA. Here are our 4 lead sponsors in the 117th Congress, Senator Tammy Baldwin and Joni Ernst, and then Congresswoman Anna Eshoo and Congressman Drew Ferguson. So the current status of ELSA. Here's a little snapshot of the 117th Congress. That's our session that we're in right now. It began on January 3rd, 2021, and it ends on January 3rd, 2023. So it's a 2-year session. You'll see coming up in the orange bubble is March 30th, Virtual Day on the Hill. So we're about 15 months into this session with about 9 months left to go. So last year on March 16th, if you go back to the timeline real quick, on March 16th, we reintroduced ELSA. We had a lot of bipartisan support, and we held our first Virtual Day on the Hill last April. This past September, we noticed that we had gained over 290 U.S. House co-sponsors, which is pretty amazing. That's a super majority, meaning 2/3 of the U.S. House. As a result of that milestone, our U.S. House sponsors placed ELSA on the special calendar called the consensus calendar, and I'll kind of describe that a little bit later. This is perfect timing with our Advocacy Day coming up on the 30th, because you'll see between now and December, this is the final time that we have to get ELSA acted upon in both the House and the Senate, and assuming it passes both of those chambers to go to the US President for his signature to become law. Otherwise, we have to start all over in the 118th Congress. So here's a snapshot of the US House co-sponsors. We have a huge number, 309, plus our lead sponsor, Congresswoman Eshoo. So that makes a total of 310. The blue solid dots are the Democratic co-sponsors. The red solid dots are the Republican co-sponsors. Now, numbers matter here. Individual members of Congress matter. While there are 435 representatives, right now there are only 432 voting offices that are filled. You'll see in the center of the screen, there are a handful of offices that are vacant. So dead center, you'll see a white fill with a black outline. That was California 22, which is a vacant seat. The 2 red fills with black outlines, those are other seats where members either sadly passed away or resigned, but they did co-sponsor previously. So they are included in our 309 count right now. The 2 boxes that you see with little stripes in the circle there's one blue and one red. Those are offices that did co-sponsor previously, left office for due to passing away or resignation, and now they are backfilled with new members, right? So those would be Florida 20 and Ohio 15. So for those 2 districts, while the initial member did co-sponsor, there are new members filling those seats now. So those people, we need to ensure that they too are educated on ELSA as well. Next slide. Here we take a look at the US Senate side. We have 40 bipartisan co-sponsors plus our lead sponsor, Senator Baldwin, for a total of 41. Again, the blue solid means the Democratic co-sponsor. The red solid means a Republican co-sponsor. Now, the difference here is you'll see a list down at the bottom, what we call the wait list. There are 9 senators, Democratic senators, who are represented by the dots inside. The fill is a little different. You can see that in the picture there. They will be added. They have pledged their support to ELSA. You won't see them on congress.gov currently, but if any further Republican senators decide they would like to co-sponsor, that wait list would begin to shrink, and you'll see those names also added to congress.gov as official co-sponsors. All right, so what happens next? Now, this is a huge announcement. It's really exciting for the U.S. House. Our next step is a floor vote. This is different than last year. Last year, we were hoping to get some committee action, any type of forward momentum with the bill. So I'm excited to announce that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, as of now, it's scheduled for April 4th, Monday, April 4th, ELSA will be voted on in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is just amazing. This is a huge milestone. I was just looking at congress.gov, and approximately 13,000 pieces of legislation have been introduced since last year. Only 999 have been voted on in one of the chambers. So that's less than 8%. I think it's about 7.5% of bills have actually been voted on in a single chamber of the of Congress. So we're going to be next, which is pretty awesome. So come April 4th, we need all members mobilized trying to get your U.S. congressman or congresswoman to vote yes in favor of ELSA. We'll talk about that legislative ask in a little bit. Now, in the U.S. Senate, we still have to go through the process, right? Let's keep our fingers crossed. We're assuming that ELSA will pass the U.S. House with all of your advocacy and dedication to this bill. So once it passes the House, we're hoping that the Senate committee that has jurisdiction, the HELP committee, will take it up and maybe have a hearing or a markup session. And then following that, it could go to the floor for a vote. Becky, I think you are next.
Thank you, Kevin. I hope you're all excited like I am to hear that really important announcement. We've been waiting several years to get this bill to the floor for a vote, and it's actually happening. So we really need all advocates to now join us, raise your voices together, and this is exactly what we're going to be doing on Capitol Hill Day. So what to expect during your virtual day on the Hill. This is just a real short agenda. Of course, Capitol Hill Day is on Wednesday, March 30th. The day will kick off at about 8 a.m. Eastern time, and Mary Fate, our Executive Director for the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasias, will hop on Facebook Live for a quick kickoff. After she's finished, she will introduce our 4 bill leads, who will have just a couple of short videos to welcome our advocates and explain why your advocacy is absolutely necessary to move the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act forward. Those videos will be posted on Facebook and Twitter between 8:10 a.m. Eastern and 8:25 a.m. Eastern. And just to let you know, if you live on the West Coast and you don't want to get up that early, they will be on Facebook later. And they will also be sent out a couple days after Advocacy Day, so you do not have to attend those. That's just optional if you want to view those the day of. After the kickoff celebration and videos, then we will jump right into our virtual legislative meetings with our U.S. Senate offices and our U.S. representative offices. Those video meetings will be between 8:30 a.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. There are a couple of offices that have indicated, I think there's 2 or 3 that have indicated that they will not be able to meet on the 30th, so they have scheduled them for the 31st. If you get your schedule and you notice that, if you cannot make those meetings, please let me know right away. At the end of the day, we're gonna have a Zoom wrap-up party. I think that's one of my favorite times of the day, where all the advocates get together. They grab their favorite snack and drink, and we just talk about what happened during the day. All of our stories of meeting with our legislators, sharing our stories, pouring our hearts out, and explaining exactly why the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act is important. And that will be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I would encourage you all, I know it's going to be a long day with our meetings, but I would encourage you all to attend that and share your stories of your experiences on the Hill. So what to expect that day in the legislative meeting process? Most likely you'll have at least 3 legislative meetings, and you may have up to 7, depending on if you are placed in a group with another state. So for example, Alaska and Hawaii are usually grouped together because they only have 3 meetings and they have very few advocates. So if you are grouped together, you may have additional legislative meetings. And if there's some reason that you can't attend those extra meetings, I just ask that you would reach out to me as soon as possible when you receive your schedule and let me know so I can take you off of those meetings. Each meeting usually lasts about 15 to 20 minutes. If there is a state, for example, California, that has several advocates, the meeting may last up to 30 minutes, as long as the legislative office has the extra time to listen and hear every advocate. Usually you're placed in meetings with additional advocates, like I mentioned. That doesn't mean every state. So for example, California, you will just usually have 3 or 4 meetings because you have so many different advocates and you have a higher volume of advocates in those meetings. If you are in those meetings that have a higher number of advocates, you may only get a minute or two to speak. So it's really important to practice your story to make sure that you hit all the high points. So just be prepared that some of those meetings may have several people. So that's where it comes in, that it's really important to practice your story, write it out, so that you, like I said, you cover all of the important, crucial information. The event is completely virtual. And as Lincoln mentioned, all schedules are online, and you will receive the links to attend the meetings through your schedule. Most meetings are via video conferencing, and we do encourage you to turn on your video to talk to your legislators or your legislative staff. It puts a face to the story, and they're more likely to remember you afterwards and remember who they need to help. So we would really encourage you, if possible, to turn on your cameras so that you can talk with them in person. The key information and ask will be provided on the schedules, but we'll also go over those tonight. There will also be meeting notes that will include committee assignments if one of your legislators is on one of the key committees that Elsa was referred to. As Lincoln mentioned, the time zones now will include your time zone. It also will include Eastern time zone, so you know that what time the office in DC, the legislative office, what time their meeting is. If you have any conflicts at all that come up, I understand that there may be emergencies, there may be something that comes up with your children or your family, and you cannot attend these meetings, please contact me directly. Do not cancel your meeting through the Advocacy Associates portal, and do not contact the member office. If you do that, the entire meeting will usually be canceled, and then no one can attend that meeting. So please reach out to me at becky@nfed.org at any point. However, I do hope that you can make those meetings, because they are going to be very important to attend. So we're going to talk a little bit about your asks, what to expect for your meetings in the U.S. House of Representatives. So for your U.S. House of Representative meetings, this will be your ask. And like I had mentioned before, this information will all be in the portal, so you don't have to write everything down today. So our ask for your members of Congress who are in the U.S. House of Representatives will be, we anticipate that the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, which is also HR 1916, will go for a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives within the next week. We are asking you to support this important legislation and vote yes. So some people may want to know if their legislators are co-sponsors or not. So Kayla has put the links to congress.gov in the chat feature at the bottom, and you can click on those links to see if your representative has already co-sponsored or if your senator has already co-sponsored the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. So there will be a separate ask for your Senate appointments, and there will be two separate ones for Senate appointments. So one is going to be if your legislator is a co-sponsor, and one is going to be for if your legislator is not a co-sponsor. And as we had mentioned before, this will all be listed in your schedule, and it will let you know if your senator is a co-sponsor or not. So if your legislator or if your Senate member is a co-sponsor, you will thank them for co-sponsoring the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, and make sure you do that. It's really important to thank them to help move ELSA forward. And then you'll mention that we anticipate that the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act will go for a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives within the next week. We are asking for your continued support and ask that you reach out to your Senate and Help Committee leadership to make ELSA a priority and help move ELSA forward through committee and to the Senate floor for a vote. And then if your legislator is not a co-sponsor, first of all, you're going to ask them to please co-sponsor the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, but then you're going to have the same ask as up above, that we anticipate that ELSA will go for a vote, and that we're asking for their continued support, and that they reach out to Senate and Help Committee leadership to make ELSA a priority so that we can get it to a vote in the Senate as well. So conducting a meeting in your representative meetings. If you're a team leader and if you are a team leader, it will be listed, as Lincoln mentioned, in your online schedules right under the name of the representative or the senator that you're going to meet or their staffer. So first of all, you're going to talk about the ask, which is ask your representatives to support the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and vote yes when it comes to the floor of the House. Then all of the families will share their stories. Usually what I do in meetings is I will share my story first if I'm the team leader, and then I'll call on each individual family to share their story so that everybody gets an opportunity. Then next, the team leader will share a little bit about the background of ELSA, how ELSA has strong bipartisan support in both the US House and the US Senate, with over 309 House co-sponsors and also 40 Senate co-sponsors since it was reintroduced on March 16th. You'll reiterate again, but we still need you to vote yes to make sure ELSA passes and gets signed into law. And then at the end, when you're closing, ask again. Just say, will you please help support us and our families? Will you vote yes to help families like ours? And then thank them for their time. It'll be a little bit different in Senate meetings. So first of all, the team leader will either thank your senator for co-sponsoring, or if your senator is not a co-sponsor, you will ask them to co-sponsor the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, which is S754 on congress.gov. Then the team leader will explain that we anticipate that ELSA will go for a vote in the US House of Representatives within the next week, and we'll ask them to help move ELSA forward by reaching out to their colleagues, leadership, and committee members to indicate their support and prioritize ELSA's passage in the 117th Congress. Once the team leader has done that, then they will ask each of the families or each of the advocates that are attending the meeting to share their story and explain why ELSA is important to you. Like I said, you usually get about 1 to 2 minutes per family or per advocate to share your story. And then at the end, when you wrap up, the team leader will explain again that ELSA has strong bipartisan support in both the US House and the US Senate, with over 309 House and 40 Senate co-sponsors since it was reintroduced. But you need to emphasize, but we still need your help to make sure ELSA passes and gets signed into law. So preparing for your meetings. What do you need to do to prepare? The first thing I usually do is write out my personal story, or if you don't have a personal story and you're sharing another patient's story, then write that out. And I always encourage people to use note cards. My family will write out note cards, and then we will read those note cards to other family members just so that they understand exactly the different points that need to be shared. So you are familiar with the story and you're not nervous that day. And then feel free to bring those note cards out during the meeting and read off of them if you're more comfortable doing that. Like I said, practice verbally. I usually read it out loud to my husband just so that he can, listen and make sure that I'm hitting all of the critical talking points. And then I also have him time me to make sure that it's about 1 to 2 minutes. Make sure that you access your online schedule and review it. I can't tell you how important that is. Like I said, there may be things that come up during the day, and there may be schedule changes. So as soon as you get your schedule, check it. As soon as the day of advocacy rolls around, make sure you get up in the morning and check it to see if there's any changes. As Lincoln said, there can be changes at any point, so it's important to periodically review it all the way up until advocacy day. Team leaders, review the talking points and the material in the Advocacy Associates portal for all of the meetings. Make sure that you understand who is a co-sponsor and who isn't, who's on a committee, so that you can mention that they're on a committee. For example, a senator who's on the HELP committee will be able to push ELSA forward in the Senate. Determine which ask applies to each legislator. So as I mentioned before, there is one ask for all of the members of the House of Representatives, and then there's 2 different asks for senators, depending on if they're a co-sponsor or not. You do not need to be an expert on all the intricacies of ELSA. Just focus on your personal story. And if a legislator has questions, just let them know that you don't know the answer to that question and that you'd be happy to get back to them. Check your emails often, and make sure to check your schedules for last minute cancellations. And like I said before, the meetings this year are in your own time zone, so make sure that you keep track of that. If any issues arise, any schedule conflicts, or if you need to cancel anything, please contact me until 3:25 and let me know if you need anything taken off your schedule. If conflicts arise on 3:30, you need to contact Advocacy Associates via their online portal so that they can try to get a hold of the member to let them know that you will not be able to be in that meeting. And like I had said before, do not cancel your meeting with the member's office. So we need your story for Hill Day. The NFED is collecting stories so that we can share them with legislators who are looking to hear from more than one or two constituents if they only have a couple of constituents either in their state or district. We're asking that you type out why you're advocating for ELSA and send it to us with photos if you're comfortable doing that. We want to hear your experience, what your experience has been with trying to get coverage for treatments for you or your loved ones or your patients. If you have photos and you're willing to share them, please include that with your story. This is the same story you will be sharing with your legislator on Virtual Advocacy Day. So it's a great opportunity for you to work on your story and then send it to us. The NFED may add your story or photo to the personal stories handout that we send to all legislators. That will also be in the portal. You'll be able to see that. And we may also use it on our website or social media platforms to raise awareness about the need for ELSA. And Kayla has added that to the chat feature at the bottom, so you can access that link. And now we will talk about tips for successful meetings. So the most important thing is to have effective meetings. Your unique and individual story is very powerful. It's the #1 tool in garnering support for the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. Many of the legislators who have signed on to support the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act or co-sponsored have heard from only 1 or 2 families and have decided to sign on to ELSA because they understood our struggles, because we repeatedly reached out to that legislator and let them know how important ELSA is to our families. Explain your congenital anomaly medical impact, or if you're a provider and you have a patient, share their story. Explain your insurance coverage struggles. And like I said before, use notes to share your story. It's absolutely encouraged, and it does help you provide all the critical information that you need to share with your legislators. Practice, practice, practice. Each family will only have 1 to 2 minutes, so it's important that you practice because we want to make sure that all of the advocates have enough time to share their story. So a couple of other helpful meeting tips. I know that Lincoln had mentioned he usually encourages people to arrive 10 minutes early. I usually arrive about 5 to 10 minutes early, just so that you can talk to your team leader and ask them if there's any changes or if there's any changes in the list of people who will be going first, or if there's been a change with the member showing up or a certain staff member who will be taking over the meeting. So you should have set expectations as to how long your meeting will last. Like I said, usually meetings last about 15 to 20 minutes. However, if you do have 30 minutes and you have extra time to talk to either your member of Congress or their staffer, take that extra time to share your story in depth and explain exactly what ELSA would do for your family or yourself or your members. Make sure that you prioritize constituents. So in Wisconsin meetings, if we have families who are from Wisconsin, we will have the constituents go first to make sure that they're able to speak with their legislator. If there is time for other people or advocates to talk after constituents, then they should do that afterwards, because members of Congress want to hear from their constituents first. Make sure you focus on ELSA and don't discuss other legislation on political issues. So I know that there's a lot of different bills that you're probably very passionate about. I'm really excited about the daylight savings time bill, and I would like to talk to my legislator about it, but this is not the time to be talking to your legislators about any other bills that you're excited about or you want them to support. We're there to talk about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, and we don't want to muddy the waters with talking about different legislation. We just want to focus on the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. If there's a member of Congress who gets off track, or their staff member, and they talk about different legislation, I usually try to bring them back to ELSA and just say, it sounds like the legislation that you're talking about is very important. However, we're here to talk about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, and we try to get the conversation back on track. As Lincoln said, there's an area to take notes. So make sure that you take notes about the comments or questions that the staff or members make. And then I want to emphasize that you need to be kind. Most staff and members have a very busy day. They have meetings back to back, and we want to stand out in the crowd to make sure that we're very kind, and we sit there and listen to them and understand exactly what they're asking of us, especially if they have questions or follow-up information. As always, relax, have fun, and stay positive. Once you get into your first meeting, you'll realize that it is a very relaxed atmosphere. You may be a little bit intimidated because you think that this is your member of Congress or their office, but they're just people like you and I, and we've sent them to Congress to work for us. So just remember, have fun and make it a great day. And now I'll switch it over to Kevin, and he'll talk to you about staying connected and building relationships with offices.
Thanks, Becky. So after your meetings, building a relationship with whoever you talk to is really, really important. So sometimes you're going to be meeting with the individual legislator themselves, along with likely some staff who are there to take notes as well. Sometimes you're only going to be meeting with the staff member who is equally as important in the grand scheme of things for these meetings. So immediately after your meeting, you want to complete the survey that Lincoln talked about in the Advocacy Associates platform. Within 24 hours, you want to email anybody who attended. So during your meeting, you'll likely be given a point of contact and email address, and there's that thank you email that you can use from the Advocacy Associates platform as well. You want to use that, reach out to that staffer, that member, and thank them for having the meeting. You also want to reiterate your ask in that message as well. For the House, please vote in favor of ELSA. For the Senate, if they're a co-sponsor, thank you for co-sponsoring. We still need your help. If the Senate is not a co-sponsor, please co-sponsor ELSA. So this is just as important as the meeting itself. Any additional information you feel like, hey, I didn't have enough time to go into this. I didn't get to show maybe x-rays, maybe medical bills, remove any PII, the personal identifying information from that, right? But if you need to show something to that member or staff member that you think is so important in telling your story, do that. You can send that by email as well. And now, of course, for the House, we wrote here, if you don't hear back, email or call that DC office maybe every 1 to 2 weeks, right? In the House, we don't really have that luxury. So you're going to be meeting with them on March 30th. As of now, the vote is scheduled for the following Monday, April 4th. So if you need any type of confirmation on that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even on Monday, April 4th, before the vote, maybe give a call on that morning, say, hey, just want to remind you, please vote yes on the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. Building relationships is extremely important here. You need to be persistent, positive, patient, and passionate, right? The 4 Ps there. As Becky said, kindness makes all the difference. We don't want to argue with legislators or the staff. I know we all might have our own political persuasions here. And you might end up talking to people of a different party or with different views. That's okay. This isn't a place to argue. We want to educate them on the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and how it will benefit you, your family, your patients, if you're a care provider, et cetera. Let them know that you're looking forward to hearing back from them and that you can be a resource for further information. If they ask any questions, again, that you just don't know, we don't expect you to be an expert on this, and that is totally okay. Just take note of it, send it to Becky and I, and we will get in touch with that office. And on the Senate side, you have a little more time, so you can share some periodic updates on ELSA. Let them know, hey, it just passed the House on April 4th. Again, fingers crossed that's in our future, right? So give them the updates. And like I mentioned earlier, there are thousands. I think approximately 13,000 pieces of legislation right now. So we need them to focus on this one, the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. And we'll talk a little bit later about social media advocacy as well. So the big question, what if an office says no? And again, I have to caveat this a little bit because we're in a unique situation with the US House. But bottom line, it's okay. It will be okay. Very, very few bills garner 100% support from Congress, especially a bill related to health, especially one on health insurance, right? So there will be opposition, and that's okay. You want to thank them for clarifying their stance, and then you kind of want to find out, what's the root of your concern? Can you please explain what issues you have? Again, this is not the time to argue. It's time to take note. That way we'll try to do some effective follow-up afterwards. In the House, right, we're going to be asking them to vote. I would be very surprised if somebody says they're going to vote no, but some will. They might say, thank you, we'll keep your views in mind when it comes to the floor for a vote, and we'll be sure to consider your viewpoints. That's okay. And the Senate side, when we are asking them to co-sponsor, if they say, no, we'd really like to stay off, again, same thing, just ask them, can you clarify what exactly is preventing you from co-sponsoring? Keep in mind, if an office does not co-sponsor, it does not mean that they won't vote for the bill. So even if they don't co-sponsor, they can absolutely vote yes in favor of the bill when it gets to that point. And of course, always ask if you can stay in touch with the office to share updates on the bill in your family. We want to keep an open dialogue with these offices. All right, so right now we'll kind of go into a very, very brief mock legislative meeting. I'll kind of be playing the role of a legislator or the staff. So, think of me however you'd like, staff member, Congress member. Becky will be playing the role of an advocate.
So hello, Representative Kosher. My name is Becky Abbott, and I live in Slinger, Wisconsin. My son Aiden has XLHED, which is a form of ectodermal dysplasias. He's missing many of his teeth. And as you can imagine, teeth are very important to be able to chew and swallow and speak. And because he is missing many of his teeth, we need to get him complex medical care in order for him to be able to get a denture. And then later on in life, he will need bone grafting and then implants, so that he can thrive in life and make sure that he'll be able to talk with his friends and his classmates and colleagues. And today I'm here to talk to you about our insurance struggles that we are experiencing, and talk to you a little bit about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. The Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act is HR 1916 in the U.S. House of Representatives, and then S754 in the Senate. So I really just wanted to thank you for taking the time to, out of your busy schedule, to talk with us today. And if it's okay with you, I just want to talk to you a little bit about ELSA. And then if you have any questions, you can answer them afterwards. Would that be okay?
That would be great. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story already. And I'd appreciate any further information you can tell me about this bill.
Sure. So the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act would ensure that private, group, and individual health insurance would provide coverage for the repair of a congenital anomaly, as long as that repair is medically necessary. So in the case of my son, since we are getting delays and denials of insurance coverage, what it would do is it would close loopholes to ensure that insurance companies would have to provide coverage for that medically necessary treatment he needs, so that he's able to get the oral and dental treatments, so that he can, like I said, chew and talk and speak properly. This legislation is critical and common sense. As you know, we're here about ectodermal dysplasias, but there's also about 70 plus organizations who have signed on to support ELSA, and that's because ELSA will cover the repair of all congenital anomalies, as long as those congenital anomalies, the treatments are medically necessary. So I will be talking to you as a parent who has a son with ectodermal dysplasias, but there's also other organizations who are advocating alongside of us in this meeting, and they'll be talking to you about other congenital anomalies who are experiencing the exact same insurance struggles as we are.
Yeah, that's great. That was going to be my next question is, is this a disease specific? Is this only limited to ectodermal dysplasia or the oral congenital anomalies? But it sounds like I'll be hearing from some others who might be affected by different congenital anomalies as well.
Yes, that's correct. It is not disease specific, and it is not just for the ectodermal dysplasias community. It is encompassing of all congenital anomalies, as long as that treatment is medically necessary.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'd love to hear from some of the others here.
Sure. So I have Sharon here, and her daughter has pediatric cataracts, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about why the bill is important to their family.
Perfect.
So at this point, you would have that family share their story and explain why the bill is important to them.
Great. Thank you for sharing your story, Sharon. Becky, let's talk a little bit more about this bill. Is there a cost estimate associated with this bill?
That's a question I can't answer for you. I wasn't aware that there are cost estimates for bills. I can check into that information for you and get back to you if that would be okay. I apologize that I didn't have that information.
Certainly, yeah, that would be great. I'll be sure to that you get my staff contact here, and you guys can send that over by email afterward.
That would be great. I noticed that you are not currently a co-sponsor right now. However, the bill will be going to a vote in the House in just a couple of days, sometime early next week. And we would really appreciate your support to vote yes for that bill. As you can imagine, our advocates have been advocating for the past 5 years for this bill. It would mean that our families would finally be able to afford the critical treatments that our loved ones need. So I'm just asking you that when the bill comes to the floor in April, that you would please support it and vote yes, so that it can be passed and then go to the Senate.
That's an exciting update to hear that it's going for a vote. I'll have my staff dig into any information that we can. We'll get in touch with the bill sponsor as well for any additional information. But based off your stories, it's very compelling, and I'll definitely be sure to keep your views in mind as we go to the floor. It seems like a bill that I would love to support.
That's great to hear. And since you are our representative, we would really appreciate the support. And if there's any other additional information that I can provide to you, I would be happy to follow up with that. I will send you a one-pager that has a little bit of a background of the bill. And then also there are all of the different ELSA supporting organizations listed on the back. So you can see the wide variety of organizations that are supporting ELSA. But once again, I just really want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us. You're very busy. And I know that you have a lot of groups you're meeting with us today. So we appreciate it. And I was just wondering, would it be okay if I could take a quick screenshot of the meeting just so that we can thank you on social media?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, say cheese. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If there's anything that I can do to help you make a decision to vote yes, I'll be happy to provide anything for you. And once again, we would really appreciate you to vote yes next week. And if there's anything I can help with, I'm a resource for any additional information. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. Nice talking to you all. Take care. All right. So hopefully that kind of gives everybody a quick idea of what a meeting could look like. It's really just a conversation. Just think about it as, you know your family, you know yourself, you know your patients the best. So you're just telling them the story and hoping that that story will have a positive impact on them and how they think about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. So Becky, I'll turn it over back to you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like I had mentioned in the mock legislative meeting, if there's a question that's asked of you that you don't know about, just let them know that you'll follow up with them, or a member of the advocacy committee will follow up with them afterwards. So one of the easiest way to advocate and catch the attention of your legislative office is to advocate on social media. We would love to have you socialize your advocacy, and we will be providing a sign, and you can make your own sign as well if you would like to, just to say that you're advocating for the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. Take a picture of it and post it on social media using hashtags Ensuring Lasting Smiles, as well as hashtag NFED on the Hill 2022, just so that your legislators can see that you're advocating for ELSA and we can raise awareness as to how important this legislation is. Another thing that you can do is you can post a picture of yourself or your family, or you can post either the sign that I had just mentioned or the ELSA logo and tag your legislators, asking them to vote for ELSA when it comes to the floor. You can ask them to co-sponsor, and then you can also ask them to move ELSA forward through Congress. So here's just a couple of different examples on Facebook and Instagram. Just keep in mind that offices have different variations of their names. So if you can't find it under representative, it might be listed under congressman or congresswoman. And then sometimes the legislators do not have their title in front of their name. They may just use their name. Like I'd mentioned before, use the two hashtags, Ensuring Lasting Smiles and NFED on the Hill 2022. Tag your legislators so that they see it, and then you can either include the pictures of your family or your loved ones, or the ELSA logo, whatever you would like to catch their attention. Just make sure that it is appropriate. You can create your own post, or you can tag your legislators in the comments. One thing I wanted to mention again is be kind. If you are tagging your legislators, don't comment on one of their posts and tell them that you don't agree with something that they're voting on, and then in the same post ask them to vote for or support the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. We want to make sure we're kind and that we're focusing on being positive and polite. Just remain persistent, but always be polite and positive. And then again, to raise additional awareness, you can ask your family and friends to repost or like your posts. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to thank our virtual Advocacy Day sponsors. As you can imagine, it takes a lot of resources to put on these events. And we wanted to thank Smile Train has partnered with us to try to push the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act forward. Many of their members will be on the Hill with us on March 30th. We also wanted to thank Georgia Prosthodontics, Oracle, Anil Vora, Super Sammy supporters, the Abbott family, Blue Coyote Bar and Grill. There's a couple of families who said they were posting in honor of their grandma, Ozark Prosthodontists, the Long family, and then Soft Bones, and then a couple of other families who have donated money. We are so thankful for everybody who is sponsoring, and we're really thankful for all of the supporting organizations who will be on Capitol Hill with us virtually and sharing their stories to try to move ELSA forward. Like I had mentioned before, this is a team effort, and this is not just to help the ectodermal dysplasias community. This is to help all organizations that will support, that will benefit from ELSA. So I just want to provide my email address as well as Kevin's email address. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us. And then I also wanted to thank all of you for supporting and advocating for ELSA. And let's protect all Americans born with congenital anomalies. And with that, I'm going to open the floor for comments and questions. And I just have to mention, Nick, you are absolutely right. I was so scared to mess up your last name, so I didn't even attempt it. But he said it's Ann, it's Barry. So thank you for mentioning to how to pronounce your last name. And thank you so much for supporting the Advocacy Day on the Hill. So with that, let's get to our questions. We have quite a few of them.
Yeah, Becky, you'll see I started answering some of them directly by text, but let's start with the open ones, and then we'll go into the ones that I did and just verbally go over the ones that I already answered as well. So the first one, if we move states in the last year, is it still appropriate to follow up with staffers from the previous state?
Yep, and I would say, yes, you can follow up with the states that you have met with before. So for example, I'm in Wisconsin. I met with my Wisconsin legislators last year. I'll just reach out to them and let them know the status of the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and let them know that you're still counting on their support. But yes, please feel free to reach out to the staffers that you met with previously.
All right. From Bryn, is there an estimate for the average out-of-pocket medical/dental costs someone with ectodermal dysplasia incurs? When my daughter was diagnosed, I was told to expect between 100 and 200,000 during childhood.
So what I would say about that is that it varies from person to person, and it depends upon how affected your child or loved one is. So it's up to each individual family to provide that amount if they have that amount. Because if a child's only or is missing, 6 or 8 teeth compared to a child who's missing all of their teeth, the dental plan is going to be much more complex and it will cost much more money. So I wouldn't give a general estimate for everybody. I would just share if your daughter, when she was diagnosed, if she received that type of an estimate, you can share that, but I wouldn't mention that that's what it is for all either loved ones who live with ectodermal dysplasia or who have congenital anomalies.
All right, next one. Any tips for individuals who struggle to get through their story without crying, or those who struggle with anxiety about being on video via Zoom?
So I'm going to be upfront and honest here that I have cried pretty much every advocacy day that I have attended. It's really hard to share about your loved one or your child and all of the different struggles that they're going through. I personally think that you should pour your heart out and be authentic. And if you end up crying, that's okay. It's expected, right? These are the struggles that your family is going through, and your legislators need to understand exactly what you're going through, and that may help them support the bill or vote yes because you were completely honest and transparent with them. So I wouldn't feel bad about crying in a meeting, and just know that you're in good company and that everybody in the meeting has experienced the same things you have. And yeah, just share your heart and whatever's on your heart that day. If you are nervous about being on camera, you can let the legislative office know. I mean, there's been times when I've said, I'm really nervous. I just need a quick second just to collect my thoughts. And like I said, be honest, be transparent, and share exactly what's on your heart.
Next is, are there other resources for friends and family who can't participate in the virtual day on the Hill, but still want to contact their reps and advocate for ELSA before April 4th?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I would encourage. One is that ask your friends and family to join our Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act Advocates Facebook group. We provide the latest updates in that group, and you can find the email addresses to the different U.S. House of Representative offices as well as the Senate offices. We also have a really easy web tool that you can use and share the link with your family and friends. We'll be updating the ask information this week on that web tool. So it will ask the legislators to vote yes when the bill comes to the House floor. And all you have to do is enter in your physical address and your email address, and it will automatically populate a letter that will be sent, and you can customize it as well. It really honestly takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes to do it, and anybody can use it.
Next one, a logistical one. How do you take a screenshot in Zoom on a MacBook Air? I would just offer Google. I have a MacBook Air and I honestly have no idea as well. Something I'm going to have to check out, but I would just Google that. I don't know off the top of my head. The next question, the term medically necessary makes me nervous. How does the bill address the fact that some insurance companies might not consider missing teeth or missing ears medically necessary?
So what is nice about ELSA, and we feel that is a very important piece of ELSA, is that medical necessity is left up to the treating physician. So it's clearly stated that medical necessity is left up to a treating physician, and then it also specifies what a treating physician is, that it will encompass all physicians who are part of the treatment plan. So it will take the determination of medical necessity out of the hands of the insurance company, and it will put it in the hands of the treating physician or treating physician team.
Okay, next one, Brian from Alaska. Oh, man, this one's tough. It was, if our rep passes away, late Congressman Don Young, of course, do we still meet with them or their staff? And also for Minnesota, Jim Hagedorn's office as well. Becky, I don't have an answer on that one. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, so for me, I would personally encourage you to join that meeting. I know that Congressman Young was scheduled to meet with you directly. He's been a wonderful advocate for our community and has always co-sponsored and signed on right away. I would recommend that you attend that meeting and thank that office for their support and express your condolences. I think that's the least we can do for that, especially that office who has been such a supporter for our families, and how wonderful he's been to our advocates.
Next is from Janet. What's the difference between being a co-sponsor and saying, quote, that sounds like something I would vote yes for if it came to the floor? I can kind of address that one. I think it's a really important point to note that when the bill is going to the floor, there are no votes guaranteed, right? Regardless of whether they've co-sponsored in the past, nothing is guaranteed, right? So co-sponsor was a real tangible form of that member showing support early on in the process, while it was still kind of being considered by committees or being discussed amongst leaders and the bill sponsors. But now that the bill is coming to the floor, we're starting at zero. Right, I guess we can assume 1 with Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, maybe 2 with Congressman Drew Ferguson, our Republican lead as well, right? But everything after that, everybody has to show up for the vote and vote yes. If they don't do that, it'll be a tough day. So yeah, regardless of whether they've co-sponsored or not, we're still asking all of them to vote yes. So it's absolutely critical. If your member is a co-sponsor, you still need to ask them to vote yes. Sometimes maybe just remind them, hey, I just want to remind you, you co-sponsored this bill. Will you please vote yes for it on April 4th? Let's see, where else? Tricia, thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. Ruth, will the April 4th vote be televised? And if so, how can we watch it?
Ruth, it will be televised. At some point, the NFED will send out an announcement with all of this information. And then we'll also share a link where you can watch the vote that day. It will most likely be on the majority leaders webpage, but just watch for an email. And also if you're in the ELSA group, we should be able to post it there as well.
All right, and then one from Alexis. What can we say for personal story if we don't exactly know how many teeth a child is missing due to not having an x-ray because they're so younger too, but does have misshaped teeth and needs future dental work from what the dentist has said? Yeah, I was in that exact same situation just a few years ago with my son, Cannon. Everything was kind of hypothetical when I participated in my first advocacy day. My son had not undergone any treatments, hadn't had the x-rays. We hadn't spent any money on the care that he required. But what I did is just kind of introduce my son. I think I held up it was in person at that time, but I held up a photo of him. At that time, he may have actually been in the room. I can't really recall. But for these virtual meetings, you can just introduce who they are and talk about anticipated costs. You know, you're expecting to have to go through XYZ for their treatment plan. And yeah, so you can just talk about that, just kind of deal with the hypotheticals. Any other tips, Becky?
No, if you know information about ectodermal dysplasias, I'm assuming that your child has ectodermal dysplasias or whatever congenital anomaly that you are representing. Just say that kind of how Kevin had mentioned, this is what a typical child goes through. This is the type of work that they'll go through. This is what they'll need and why they need it, to be able to speak, chew, swallow. If they don't have it, it could lead to speech issues, or they could have swallowing issues. Just kind of what the typical things of all kids who don't have teeth will face if they don't get treatments.
Next, is there a way for families with other diseases to participate in the day with us? Well, at this point, as long as they've registered, the deadline was last Friday at noon. So as long as they've registered, absolutely. But even if people have not, you know, they're not going to be able to participate on that day per se. But as Becky mentioned earlier, there are absolutely other ways they can advocate by calling the offices that they're represented by using the NFED advocacy tool on the nfed.org website, joining the ELSA Facebook page, which has some other resources as well. So that's the best way that they can help at this point. And Bryn, yes, that tool will be updated. I believe in the next couple of days, next week at some point it will be updated. So yes, thanks, Bryn. Jennifer, how should we address a situation if a rep is a member of a congressional committee and states that they are unable to co-sponsor ELSA because of their position on that committee? Yeah, there's sometimes, you know, every office has different reasons on why they can't co-sponsor. You'll find some offices that say exactly what you just said. Sorry, I'm sitting on this committee, so I can't co-sponsor it. You'll find other offices who will only co-sponsor bills that are in the committees they sit on. So, you know, at that point, just say, totally understand. Thank you for clarifying that. For, you know, dealing with the House, the co-sponsorship at this point isn't the biggest concern. We just want to make sure that they are going to vote yes in favor of the bill on April 4th. On the Senate side, if a senator is saying, sorry, I sit on the help committee, I just don't co-sponsor bills here, that's totally fine. Don't take that as a show of no support. Just ask them for any other support that they'd be willing to offer to help advance ELSA by voicing their support of the bill to the committee leadership and to the Senate leadership. All right. There's a couple of specific questions dealing with missing teeth and XLHED, talking about, you know, explain typical treatment for missing teeth. You know, every care plan is different. You'll find some good resources on the NFED's website for ectodermal dysplasias. If it's for other congenital oral anomalies, I'd highly recommend going to medical websites or your own providers. But yeah, everything, we don't like to generalize on this because everybody's care plan is so different. Okay, would be my son's affected by XLHED. Would it be beneficial to have him there at the meetings? He's only 10 months old. Totally up to you. I mean, we have infants in these meetings. We have kids. Noise is kind of expected, right? And the members and their staff know that. They love to see kids. So I mean, totally up to you if you'd like to have your son there. But it's not it's not 100% necessary, but you're definitely allowed to. So up to you on whether you'd like.
I would just add to that, though, if you do have a child, I brought my 6-month-old at the time last year. Just make sure that when you're finished talking that you mute, so that they're not yelling while the other advocates are speaking, and that the other advocates have a chance to talk. This year I'm going to bring him as well. He's about 15 months now, and I'm just going to feed him puffs so that he doesn't yell the whole time during the meeting. But children are absolutely encouraged to attend the meetings.
All right. Yeah. And Morgan, I think we just talked on that. So same thing, but yes. All right. So now I'm going to go over, make sure I didn't miss anything in here on the open questions. Let me go over to some of the answered ones that we've already done. Okay. So there was an early question about, with so much support in the House, why wasn't there any action? Well, that's the big update today. Tonight, we've got a vote scheduled for April 4th. Peter just talking about what finally got it to this point. One, advocacy and all of your sharing your stories to get the large number of co-sponsors, which absolutely helped our bill leads have productive conversations with the committees of jurisdiction and the House leadership. Plus the fact that this bill was acted on in the U.S. House of Representatives, one of the committees in the 116th Congress way back in 2020. So that helped as well. But again, bottom line is the advocacy, having you all participate in these events and reaching out and asking them to support this bill and educating them on the bill. There's on the scheduling, what time do our patient advocates need to be ready? Again, Becky kind of talked about it, but everything kind of kicks off around 8 a.m. With the Facebook videos from our bill leads and NFED Director Mary Fate. Meetings generally, correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, I think they're generally between 8:30 a.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
And the member offices are usually pretty good about taking into consideration different time zones. But all of those will be listed on your schedule when it's sent out in the next couple of days. How do we know who the team leader is? So that, again, that'll be posted in the Advocacy Associates portal. Once you go in there, you'll see the different meetings you're assigned to. You click on that one meeting and there will be a list of attendees and the team lead will be annotated. Again, it's an important, but it's a simple role for you all to take just as a facilitator. You just want to make sure that the meeting runs efficiently. It's super easy. We're going to have all the talking points for you in there. We've already submitted tons of information to these offices over the last couple of years. They have the one pager, they have frequently asked questions. So again, the key here for that day is sharing your story. If there's nothing else you're able to do, just share your story. That's the most important thing you can do. Can the representative ask or staff ask questions? Yes, absolutely. But again, just like I just said, you don't have to be the expert on all of this. If you're able to address it based off the information and the talking points, great. If not, write it down, put it in your post-meeting survey, or email it directly to Becky or I or me, and that way we can get in touch with that office after the fact. All right, can patients, families still participate in virtual advocacy day even if they've missed this training? Yes, and Becky, you want to talk about how it's going to be sent out after this?
Yeah, we'll be sending out a wrap-up email in the next day or so that tells you how to access your schedules, that the schedules are ready. It will provide a link to this webinar, and then we'll also have a link to the PowerPoint slides so that you can review them instead of watching the entire PowerPoint again.
All right. Will we have opportunity to connect with other advocates that will be in the meetings with us prior to that meeting? So I think there was way, if the registrants opted into sharing some information, it might show up in the Advocacy Associates portal. Is that accurate?
In the on your schedules, it'll show a list of all of the different attendees, and then next to it, it will have either their phone number or their email address or whatever was shared when they registered, and then you can reach out to them just to come up with a game plan or whatever you would like to talk with them about.
Yeah, and if somebody chose not to share any of that information, Lincoln did talk about the direct message function in that Advocacy Associates portal, so you can use that as well if they didn't share an email or phone number. More questions about the talking points. Will the meeting leaders have talking points that else is not a financial burden on the U.S. budget, et cetera. So again, like there have been a lot of handouts that we've already provided to these offices, frequently asked questions. There was one there about costs. So our bill sponsors have already submitted some of this information to various offices. If Becky, are there specific documents that our advocates will have access to? Will it have the FAQ, or are we sending the one pager in there?
On the portal, it will have the one pager as well as the patient stories document. Those are the only two. We have previously sent the FAQ, and then also the information about the cost of the bill that we anticipate that it will not cost. So that will not be available to advocates, but we've already sent it to the offices.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's something you can mention. If that question comes up, just mention that their office received a frequently asked questions sheet from the advocates, and there's information in there. And then again, just take note of that question and let us know. All right. All right. I think, let's see if there's any other open questions that have come in. So let me browse real quick. Okay, here's two more. All right. From Noel. I wanted to make sure families know to prepare to fill the entire time if they are the only family from their state. Also ask how much time they have set aside. Yes, that's really important. At the beginning, when you're introducing yourself, I always like to ask, and I see we're on the schedule for 15 minutes. Is that correct? Or I see we're on the schedule for 30 minutes. Is that enough time? Sometimes if a member is there, maybe they'll only be there for 5 to 10 minutes and then leave the rest to their staff. You just try to ask the question up front how much time they have. Noel continues, our legislators always set aside half an hour, and it's just us. The first time we only prepared 1-minute speeches, and my daughter started singing, showing off her curly toes on the Zoom. Yeah, any tips, Becky, on if there's only a handful of people, what to do with the time?
Yeah, I would just stay really focused on ELSA. I know that it's really easy to get caught up in the conversation and go off on other areas, that you're excited about, or things that, you may be doing in your personal life. But I would just say, just really try to focus on why you're there. Explain why the bill is important to you, why that legislator needs to get it passed. Because I know that every time we go to one of these meetings, a legislator says, oh, is that your son? He looks so much older. And then he wants to talk about Aiden, which is great because he remembers Aiden, but we really want him to understand that he needs to support Aiden. He needs to vote yes for the bill so that Aiden can have the treatments he needs. So I would just always try to remember to bring it back to ELSA and exactly why you're there, and really stay focused so that the office understands the impact of this bill.
Yeah, no, you don't have to fill the entire time, so if it ends up going shorter than the half hour, I bet the member or the staff member would appreciate that as well. You don't have to fill the entire time if you're unable to. But of course, if you've prepared a 1-minute speech, beyond that, if you have additional examples of how lack of treatment has impacted so-and-so, you can talk. There's lots of ways you can go into more detail on your story if needed, but don't feel obligated to fill the entire time. As long as you get through the key talking points that we discussed, and which will be in your schedule, that's a successful meeting. Okay, what ages would this bill cover? My daughter's 25 and suffers from dentogenesis imperfecta and has been undergoing treatment since she was 4. Yeah, so no age limit, right? That's one of the great things about this bill as currently drafted. There's no age limit. Now, of course, it's not retroactive, right? This is for any future treatments from the date that it's implemented, right, which will be a key component of the text. And once it gets signed by the president, we'll have a much better idea of when the bill actually becomes implemented and signed and part of law. But yeah, anything going back won't, retroactively, of course, wouldn't be covered, but future treatments would be. Becky, I think that's it. I'm not seeing any other questions at this point, and we're right at 8:31 Central. I'll leave it at that. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I'll just quickly give a few comments, and then Kevin, if you want to wrap up. But we have made it this far because of advocates like yourself sharing your stories. As Kevin mentioned, there's very few bills that have made it to this point in this Congress. There's so many other things that Congress has focused on, particularly COVID, and now there's war and a lot of different other things. At the end of this year, there's going to be another election, which Congress will then focus on. So we have the opportunity, a very rare opportunity, to move this bill and get it passed this year. And it's going to be up to every single advocate to reach out, make sure that your representative votes yes. If they vote yes and it passes, then we'll need you to reach out to your Senate members and make sure that if the bill makes it to the Senate floor, that they vote yes. So I would ask that you do anything that you possibly can to reach out to your friends and family and ask them to advocate as well. We don't have another chance to do this. Once it goes for a vote, that's it. So make sure that you're doing everything that you possibly can to get all of your representative on board. If you, like I said, if you have family and friends, or your hairdresser or your UPS man or whoever you talk to, ask them to advocate right alongside us. I'm just going to mention again, we're so thankful to be advocating alongside all of the ELSA supporting organizations. And you'll most likely have advocates from other organizations, and we welcome them, and we're excited that they'll be able to share their stories alongside the NFED community. So I think that's all I have, but I just wanted to say thank you all for taking the time to advocate with us, and I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Great. Yeah, thank you everybody. This is really exciting. Like I said, we're about to be in the 7.5% of bills that actually get voted on the floor of the U.S. Congress, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping we can be in that 1% to 2% of bills that actually get signed into law by the president before the end of the year. So with all your continued advocacy, I think we can get there. We're off to a great start. Just want to really thank all the other organizations and people outside of the NFED who are participating and have joined this ride over the last couple of years. It's been an amazing effort to see dozens and dozens of other organizations. And I know there's a few, some March of Dimes. So there's just countless organizations that are part of this effort. So we're extremely excited. Thank you. If there's anything we didn't cover tonight, the slides will have our email addresses. Feel free, reach out. We'll do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. And yeah, thank you. Have a great night, everybody.